Hi everyone, I'm Helen from Oblong Books. Thank you all for being patient. You are in the right place. We are here. We were just going over some technical details and introducing ourselves. I am extremely pleased to have Nava Atlas joining us this evening, and she will be speaking with Roberta Schiff of Hudson Valley Vegans about her new book, Plant-Powered Protein. Before I introduce there it is, beautiful book. I have to get my copy. I haven't got my copy yet. But before I introduce, that's great. Before I introduce our presenters this evening, I just have a little housekeeping to do. This is our first event of the new year, of the new season, and we couldn't be happier that we're kicking it off with you both. But coming up next week, we have a couple of other events. On Wednesday, January the 20th, we're going to be hosting Simon Winchester, who's going to be talking with Becky Thornton and Julie Hart of Duchess Land Conservancy about his new book, Land, which explores the notions of property, our proprietary relationship with the land throughout human history, how it shaped us and what it means for the future. Unlike our usual events, which are free, this event is slightly different. If you pre-order a signed copy of Land, you get exclusive access to this event. And you can find all the details about our events on oblongbooks.com. The following day, on Thursday, the 21st, we're really thrilled to be hosting Amber Ruffin and her sister Lacey Lamar for their book, You'll Never Believe What Happened to Lacey, Crazy Stories About Racism. Amber is a writer and performer on The Late Night with Seth Meyers. Many of you may have seen her on that. She's one of the first African-American comedy writers, I think, ever to be on a late night show. And she has just recently got her own late night show on the new NBC streaming service Peacock, and it's called The Amber Ruffin Show. And Amber and Lacey are going to be in conversation with Lacey Schwartz Delgado. And this book is very funny. They're going to share absurd anecdotes about these encounters. There's a deep sort of underlying horror about it. You know, it's a real lesson in how we really need to think about how our words and what we say affects others. And it's a really great book, and I recommend it. And it's going to be a really fun event. They're both hilarious. And then later in the month, on the 26th, we have for teens, Kirsten Miller and Erin Craig. And on the 28th, we have local best-selling author Mary Beth Hughes, who will be talking with Deborah Jo Immergut about her new story collection, The Ocean House. And you can find all of this information on oblongbooks.com. So that's my housekeeping. And now I'm going to introduce Nava, who I'm sure you all know because we all love her cookbooks so much. And Nava is a vegan cooking expert, and she's the author of many, many best-selling cookbooks, including The 5-Ingredient Vegan, Vegan on a Budget, Wild About Greens, and The Vegan Holiday Kitchen. And her new book focuses on all of these wonderful new plant-based protein alternatives that are out there, and how we can use them and incorporate them in our cooking and our everyday diet, and fun things to do with them that we might not have thought about because they do react differently. And Roberta has spearheaded Hudson Valley Vegans since 2002, and this is a great group. If you're not aware of it, it operates out of Rhinebeck and in the region generally, and combines social events and social action by sharing recipes, educating and informing, and enjoying delicious, healthful vegan food. There are gatherings, potlucks, and all sorts of fun things going on. And the aim is to encourage other people to do so, and to not be afraid of being vegan, and to embrace it and learn, learn how to be vegan. And you can get more information and sign up for any of their events at hvvegans.org. So without further ado, I'm going, because you don't want to hear from me anymore. And welcome, Nava, and welcome, Roberta. It's really great to have you.
Oh, thank you so much. So I guess we need to take it from here. First of all, it was just a year ago, although it seems like 10 years ago, where the last live event I did was actually in Robbie's beautiful test kitchen in Rhinebeck.
It was January the 12th.
Oh my gosh, a little over, almost exactly a year.
Here in 2 days.
Like so long ago. And that was really fun, and it involved actual people, and we had no idea what was coming around the corner, did we?
No, we didn't.
No. So, Robbie, I was going to ask, did you actually make something, or are you just going to be like the mistress of ceremonies here?
Mostly B. Now, what I had planned to do was to do your Reuben sandwiches.
Right.
Some things got in the way, but I did get part of it done in that I baked a rye bread that would be excellent with your vegan Reuben-esque sandwiches.
Okay. So, why don't I jump into making a couple of things, and you can read me questions as they come along, because otherwise I'm afraid things are going to pile up too much at the end. So what I'm going to be showing, and I've really prepped a lot of this because we don't have a huge amount of time, is a buffalo chicken salad. And when I do chicken, I put an apostrophe in there because I can't bear to spell out the whole word. So I don't know how this whole buffalo trend came along a few years ago, or where. I suppose it did come from Buffalo, New York, where you take some sort of protein, I guess chicken, and it's fried in Frank's hot sauce and regular butter. But I did mine in Frank's hot sauce and vegan butter. And then that is served with a creamy dressing, either a ranch dressing or blue cheese, and sticks of celery and carrots. And it's one of those recipes where you feel like, who made this up? It sounds so strange, but I guess in its original form, it must be good because people like it. And I think it's one of those things that is served for Super Bowl and events like that. So the vegan world has adopted buffalo chicken, and what usually substitutes for the chicken is cauliflower, which is really delicious, but it's not protein. So I used, this is something that I hadn't used before today. It's called ground chicken, and basically it's seitan. So before we met here, I just sauteed this in the Frank's hot sauce and vegan butter. And I decided to convert the whole thing into a salad because I really like salad. And so you get all the flavors kind of in one bowl. So we have just some shredded lettuce. And I'm going to put in a cupful of carrots. This represents 3 sticks of celery. And there's some scallion. That's it. And then what goes on it is the creamy dressing. And this is not, I'm just using this bottle. And in fact, this is a shortcut that I love, the squeezed ginger. Because I always fight with ginger. I get it home, I cut it open, and it's all dry and stringy. And so I just love, I just love discovering the squeezed ginger. And I use a lot of it because I just love
I
ginger.
use it also.
Oh, good. Okay. So what's in here is a creamy dressing that I actually made. Now, throughout the book, you'll see, and throughout all my books, I almost always present an option, either a store-bought version of something like a dressing or a sauce, or something that you can make at home. So it depends on how busy you are, how lazy you are, if you have the ingredients on hand or not. But I decided to make this because ranch dressing is very hard to find in vegan form. So the base of this dressing is very cleverly just white beans. So it makes a really nice creamy base. So the recipe says moisten the salad as needed. I'm also really not a stickler for amounts, and I try to create the kind of recipes that people can mess with. So that if you do something differently, or you don't have something and you go into your pantry and get something else, you're not going to mess it up. So I'm just going to put some of this on here.
And using the beans instead of something really high fat makes that nutritionally better too.
I think so. I mean, I think that you could do something like this with raw cashews as well. But, and that, I don't object to that. Raw cashews are just a lot more expensive. Okay. So basically, here's the salad. I'm just going to arrange it on the platter. Oh, so I was asking while I'm putting this together, are there any questions at this point in the chat? Okay, so
Not yet.
what?
Not
Not yet. Okay, and then I'm going to put this chicken-style plant protein on there. And
Okay,
really,
I'll ask you a question.
okay.
The origin of this book, were people asking you to do this, or was this an idea you got because there are so many new plant-based protein products available?
I would say the latter. This was back in early 2019, which again feels like a very long time ago. I'm sorry?
The before times.
The before times. And it just seemed like every day there was some sort of article about these new plant-based proteins. I think it was just before Beyond was about to do their IPO. So this was really in the mainstream chat, and it was also all over the business pages. Then I believe it was May or June of 2019, there was a plant-based World Expo in New York City at the Javits Center. And, such excitement over all these kind of products. The other thing that really inspired me, by the way, I was just going to finish up with this recipe. I'm going to take some more of the dressing and just drizzle it on the top, and then I'll pick it up and show everybody what. It's really just something very simple, even though I did a lot of the prep beforehand. Something like this would maybe take 20 minutes to make. It's just really so good. So, and I was gonna say, I'll loop back to your question. But another thing that I did with this book is, yes, it is about the amazing meat alternatives, but in just about every single recipe, I have an option to use what are now the traditional vegan proteins. So for a salad like this, I could have just as easily used baked tofu, this is Nasoya. It's a brand that is available at almost every supermarket. I feel like baked tofu is just a really versatile and incredibly tasty substitute in recipes that call for either chicken or tuna.
I have about 3 different kinds of poultry seasoning.
Oh, okay.
Do a marinade and add some of that. Tofu is a flavor magnet. It'll taste like you want it to.
And if we have time, I also have some kind of, I have some show and tell here of some of the other proteins.
Okay, good.
That is recipe number 1. And okay, so I was going to say the clincher for me as far as doing this particular book was reading an article in the New York Times about Bruce Friedrich, who used to be involved with PETA. And he was the one who famously would throw red paint on models who were wearing fur. And he was just a real provocateur. And so he finally came to the conclusion that what he was doing just wasn't working. So his objective was to get people to not do that to animals and also to eat less meat. So those provocative acts were just not working. So instead, he founded the Good Food Institute, which put a lot of energy and funding behind creating these kind of products. So he was finding that making people feel bad or guilty about animals wasn't reaching his objective at all. So I thought, a lot of this also has to do now with climate change. As we all know, animal agriculture is just devastating for the environment. So I just thought that if you could give people a no excuses guide to transforming their diet, there would be a lot more converts than if you tell people you've got to eat kale salad every day. There's a lot of resistance to that, even though I personally love kale salad. But I remember years ago where it was a problem with people they said, well, I can never go vegan because I would miss pizza. Well, guess what? Now vegan pizza is amazing. And so the same thing with these kind of dishes. There's a lot of comfort food and nostalgic foods. And, if you can make it and it tastes really good, but without the animal, then why not?
And here are 2 questions.
Sure.
One is about beans. When using beans, do you use canned or dried? And I'm going to be clairvoyant, and I think you're going to say both. It depends.
Oh, you are clairvoyant. Yes, I have no objection to canned beans. I do like to tell people if they can to buy the BPA-free cans, which usually the organic beans are in. But I think it's better to eat beans from a can than to not eat beans. And if people have an Instant Pot, which I don't yet, and I do plan to get, it's a lot quicker of a process, or pressure cooker. I have been known to cook beans from scratch, but sometimes, I do things so much spur of the moment that very often I'll just reach for a can of beans, like I did today to make this amazing dressing.
And such really good protein with lots of fiber and no fat.
Right. Is there another question there?
Yes. The second question is, and really you've alluded to this, can you use something else instead of seitan if you need or want to avoid gluten?
That's a good question. And honestly, a lot of these meat alternatives do use gluten, so it's like seitan. But it depends. If this person who asked the question also is sensitive to soy, you can use any number of soy products, or you can use a lot of the new products are based off of pea protein, which very few people are allergic to. So a lot of the brands are incorporating pea protein, which is really good.
Oh, here's a couple questions about your dressing, posed by Jan and Barb. What type of beans and what do you mix the white beans with? And then the next one is, Jan asks, what liquid do you blend with the white beans for the dressing?
Okay. I just use cannellini beans, and the recipe is in this book, and I mixed it with oat milk and seasonings and lemon juice. I'm trying to think, I think there was a spoonful of vinegar. That's about it. And then it goes into the food processor and just becomes really creamy because cannellini beans are very soft to begin with.
And of course, you can always add your liquid gradually so you get the consistency you want.
Right, exactly. I'm going to switch ingredients here.
Okay.
So I'll camera for a second.
Okay. You also have a question about the sodium content of the meat substitutes, so you may want to answer that at some point.
Yeah. Some of them are really salty. I'm not going to mince words here. And then some of them have absolutely no salt at all. There's some products that are just soy protein, and they really that's all there is. It's just one ingredient. I think it really varies from brand to brand, and I've been very cognizant of that. When I was at the Plant-Based World Expo, they did talk about improving the nutrition profile of these products, and I think that's going to just keep evolving as time goes on. And then again, if somebody wants to make a certain kind of dish, but they don't want to use the prepared product, I'll give you an example. I have a version of the vegan meatloaf also on my website. This one is made with Beyond, but there's a version of it that's made with walnuts and red beans that taste almost the same. So let's say you want to make this with red beans that you cook yourself. There's no sodium in them, nor is there in walnuts. So that's a good segue to something I'm going to show now, unless there's another question.
No, not yet.
Okay. So at the end of the book, there is a chapter called DIY Plant Proteins. It's not a huge part of the book, but it allows you to make your own whole foods meat substitutes. So today I made this plant-based ground, and really all that's in there, made of walnuts and tempeh. So tempeh is also a product that doesn't have any salt. Tempeh is these fermented cakes made of soybeans. and it's very high in protein. It's definitely acquired taste. And I say that if I can get my husband to eat something made of tempeh, then it must be really good, because he actually doesn't like tempeh. It does have a little bit of the fermented flavor. So what this is it's really so simple. It's just like a saute of onion, bell pepper, and then you put the tempeh in a food processor with walnuts, and your saute, and you put them back in the pan with tomato sauce and some seasonings, and you fry it up. The reason I didn't demo this is you do fry it up for about 15-20 minutes, so that would cut into too much of our time. But this, you can put it on pasta, and I'm going to make tacos out of it. So
tomorrow I am going to make the Rubenesque sandwiches with tempeh, because I got really intrigued with that recipe.
Okay, so you're going to take tempeh, like just plain tempeh, and then just fry it up?
Yeah, you have the instructions right in there. And
yeah. So yeah, tempeh is actually really good for making homemade plant-based bacon. Just have to have the right seasonings, and it really takes almost no time. You can, so again, I give the choice. You can buy the plant-based bacon. The downside to that is it is pretty salty. So when you make your own, and I'm really not advocating for either or approach. It's really flexible. You're busy, open a package. If you have more time, make it from scratch. So these are going to just be standard tacos. And I was going to say, I'm not the world's biggest taco expert. So it's just basically the corn tortillas, lettuce, tomatoes, and I put some of this on there. Tacos are a little weird. You put a lot of stuff on there, then you pick them up and everything falls out. So as you could see, pretty meaty looking.
Yeah, those look nice. I was impressed in the book with the range of different recipes and ethnicities that you used.
That's interesting. I think one of the, aside from the testing and eating, one of the most fun parts was the research. So here you go, your standard tacos, but made with plants. So yeah, there's a lot of recipes that are originally from around the world, but I feel like it really reflects the melting pot that we are in this country. So if I have a whole chapter on, it's probably my favorite chapter from the Asian takeout menu, because if I'm going to go out to eat, in the future, when we go out to eat, we're certainly not doing that now. I really haven't even done carry out. I'm going to go for Asian food. But all of these things are really on standards on menus.
Yes. I love the fact that you did a chow mein recipe, page 9.
I think chow mein is really an American invention.
Grow up with chow mein, if you're
right. Here it is. It's called chicken and vegetable chow mein. I want to give my photographer a shout out, Hannah Kaminsky. She is just amazing to work with, and you can really practically just eat these recipes right off the page. People often ask, what is your favorite recipe in the book? And that's a tough choice. But I do have, if I had to pick a favorite, I would pick pad see ew, which is something I really like to order when we go out. This tastes so much like the pad see ew that I order from a place that I feel like, maybe I'll have to have a new favorite when I go out, because I can make this easily at home. And in the photo, it's actually made with tofu. So do we have any other questions here?
We don't, but I can tell you a couple other things that really I marked that I want to make. One was your spicy udon stir fry.
Oh, I really like that too.
And that's on page 110. And I like the fact that you tell people to be versatile. Like, I will usually, if a recipe calls for hot chilies, I'm going to use mild chilies.
Right, exactly. And it has to taste good to the person who's making it.
Right.
So yeah, another favorite chapter of mine. Oh, this is what Robbie was going to make. Didn't quite come together. She made the bread part of it, which I'm really jealous of. I was saying to Robbie the other day when we were talking that my biggest failure during this, at-home period was I really wanted to learn how to make sourdough, and it just didn't go.
Oh, well, I've been doing that. I haven't written 17 cookbooks, but when I ran out of some flour that I couldn't get at the store, so I ordered from King Arthur, and they had the sourdough starter, and I said, why not? And it lives happily in my refrigerator, and once a week I make a couple loaves. It's turning out really well.
I'm so jealous. Maybe you can give me a tutorial one of these days.
And if people came in late, this is the rye bread that I made. It's a Swedish rye bread.
But is it also sourdough?
No, this is not sourdough. This is yeast, and but it's really good for sandwiches. And I tried making a Jewish rye bread. I haven't got there yet.
Well, what's the characteristic of that? The caraway seeds?
This has caraway seeds, yeah. And I said, well, I'll try a Swedish rye bread.
But why? What's the difference between Swedish rye? We're getting a little off topic, but I'm curious. What's the difference between Swedish and Jewish rye bread?
Swedish rye bread has some molasses in it and some orange zest in it. So it's a different take, but it does have caraway seeds. Rye without caraway is like the proverbial day without sunshine, I think.
Right.
And I have a Swedish friend, Swedish on both sides, and he says it's authentic tasting.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to maybe show a couple of my other favorites here. I just absolutely love the photos. This is a teriyaki chicken salad, which is, I could use the same product that I use, or I could use the baked tofu. Oh, that reminds me. I was going to do a little show and tell here with some of the products. Do we still have some time?
Yes, we do. We have some time, and we do have some more questions.
Yes,
in the end.
I was just, okay. All right. Someone asked what you use for plant-based chicken. You did allude to that. You might want to go over it a little bit.
Yeah, okay. So there's all kinds of plant-based chicken. So today for this one, I used something new for me. I'm really not familiar with this product. I ordered it off of Vegan Essentials, and it's actually really good. This is seitan based, and I like it a lot. It's pretty neutral in flavor, but the texture was very nice. This is a very cool company that I discovered at the Plant-Based World Expo, and they do a lot of also social justice work, which I really like. They gave a lot of free food to people during this pandemic who needed it. This is their No Chicken Comrade Cluck.
What's the name of the brand?
Yeah, I liked it. I used this last week. It was pretty good. And then again, to substitute for chicken, you can also use baked tofu. It's really good. It's an excellent chicken substitute.
Okay. And you have a request to move your camera down so that your prep can be seen better.
Oh, well then, let's see. I don't know if that's possible here.
There you go. Perfect.
Okay.
But can you still see me? Or am I cut off?
Yeah.
Now we can see you perfectly.
Yeah, so I don't have too much prep going here. I just, I made the tacos. Here they are. Somebody in my family is going to eat them.
Okay. Rachel wants to know what your favorite bean recipe is.
My favorite bean recipe. Wow. It's like asking which one is your favorite child.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't think offhand what is my favorite. I was going to say I like, this is a really kind of a boring answer, but I like chili a lot.
You have a chili mac recipe.
Chili mac. That's another Americanism.
I think would be so good for brand new vegans because everybody likes chili and mac and cheese.
Right. It's an amalgam of those two.
My friend Arlen, who's watching, and just celebrated his 41st anniversary as a vegan.
Oh
He
my
said, in the early days, everywhere you went, they made chili for you. They didn't know what else to make.
I remember there was when I was living in New York City, and this was not, I wasn't even a vegan yet. I probably hadn't even heard the word, but I went to, it was what they called it, a health food restaurant. And it was either on 14th Street or 23rd Street. And I ordered chili. I ordered the vegetarian chili, and it had TVP in it. And so I tasted it, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is the meat chili. And I called the waiter over, and I said, you can see the meat chili. He said, no, this is not the meat chili. So I tasted it again, and I called him over. I said, no, this has to be the meat chili. And so he had to bring out the bag of TVP to show me. I guess this was such early days for me that I hadn't even heard of TVP. So
You've come a long way.
yeah, that's right. I was going to say, I was just talking to somebody yesterday about how what's really changed in this whole arena is the availability, not only of these kinds of things, but even vegetables. I mean, when I grew up, we may have had, I don't know, 5 or 8 vegetables to choose from. And now there's just dozens, if not hundreds. And it just really, and when I tell people about converting to a plant-based diet, I say your world is going to expand. It's not going to shrink because you're going to be exploring all kinds of things that you would have never thought to explore before.
And I've told people you don't really have to know the name of a green to use it and enjoy it.
Right. All greens are good. I wrote a whole book about them.
Yes. Wild About Greens. Yes. That was one we featured when you did the program for us last January. I think that was just out.
Well, no, actually, Wild About Greens came out in 2012. So I think I was doing I was doing 5-ingredient vegan, which was kind of new at the time.
Oh, okay. And I let me put in a plug for 5-ingredient vegan because I wear this little necklace that says vegan because it's a good conversation starter. And very often people will say, well, you know, I've been thinking about it. And about a week ago, it's actually the woman at Lens Crafters who helped me select my new glasses. And she said, well, I'd like to go vegan, but it seems so hard. So when I went in to pick up these glasses, I brought her a copy of your 5, is it 4 or 5 ingredient?
5.
5.
Some have 4, but it's 5. 5 is max.
And she opened it up and just big smile. I could do this, she said.
Right. This is the one for, you know, I'm going to go off camera so I can show it.
Okay.
Hands here.
But yeah, the variety of books that Nava has written.
I'm sure Oblong has this as well. And this is for people, I call my Vegan 101 book, where people say, I don't have time, it's too intimidating, it's too hard, it's too expensive. So this is the No Excuses Guide for that. And the new one is the No Excuses Guide for people who say, I can't give up my X, Y, and Z, and then you don't have to. So yeah, I actually still use this quite a bit because I do other things. I'm a writer, I'm a visual artist. I'm not like a chef who's in the kitchen all day long. So I like simple also. These also recipes, you can't mess these up. They're so simple, and you can also add all your own touches to them.
So you're good at shortcuts because you need shortcuts.
You know, I'm good at shortcuts, but I also, like I said, I offer the full version as well. If you have more time, you can always make a sauce or a dressing or whatever. If you don't have time, use a good quality bottle. And
here's a question about time. It's plant-based proteins take less time to cook. How do you compensate for that in your recipes?
They take less time to cook?
Well, I mean less time than meat, probably.
Yeah.
I would assume that's the meaning.
Yeah, it is. They take less time than meat. So if you're going to use them as a substitute in a recipe that would ordinarily have meat in it, how do you compensate? Do you have to cook a portion of the ingredients first and add it later, or?
Okay, I get it. Yeah, I would say that. And also one of the things about many of these products is they already come flavored. they come with, they taste good in the first place. You don't have to worry about marinating them. In fact, when I started this book, I bought all these rubs and marinades. And you know what? I never use them because most of them you can use right out of the package, or you can use something that you have and already like. For example, I really like barbecue sauce, which has all the flavors in it, or an Indian simmer sauce. And in fact, Robbie, that's one of the things I made at your place, something with the
I remember that, yeah.
sauce.
So in response to that question, if you're using these things that don't need much cooking, just basically either browning or warming up, then it's a lot easier not to overcook your vegetables.
This is true. And what do you do with that extra time? You read books or do other things.
Okay, and then we have a question from Herbert, techniques for cooking without oil.
Oh, that's an easy one. First of all, I do use a little bit of oil in the recipes. And last week I was invited onto a program that, oil is forbidden. If I use 2 tablespoons of oil in a dish that serves 6, that's a lot. So you could just really use broth or wine, and it really won't make a whole lot of difference. That's it. Just swap it out for broth or wine, or if you just don't want to tell anyone, water. It works.
If you water saute onions, adding little bits of water at a time, they brown very nicely.
Yes. So, I use so little oil in the recipes that if you do away with it, it's not going to make any difference to the final result.
Okay. And Frank wants to know, Nava, what's the difference between tofu and tempeh?
Okay. Well, how convenient. I have some tofu right here, and it's in a tofu press that I've had for probably at least 10 years. And I am quite sure that this tofu press is going to outlive me. You buy it once, it really is great because it squeezes out the water and you're not wasting lots of paper towel.
No more on top of a packet of tofu.
This is what tofu looks like. It's got like a cake. It's almost like you can compare it a little bit with cheese, although it doesn't have the flavor of cheese. It's very bland. It's like coagulated soy milk is what tofu is. It would be really interesting if somebody figured out how to do that with something like oat milk. Or maybe somebody has already, oat milk tofu. That would be really great for people who have soy allergies. And then just before I show tempeh, which is also coagulated, but more from the soybeans rather than the soy milk. And it has a firmer texture and a much different mouthfeel. It's a little bit grainy. It has a little bit of
beans in there.
I'm sorry?
You can see the beans in there.
You can see the beans, and you can also see, I don't know what this is called. It's kind of gray. It's almost like it's a beneficial mold is what it is. It's supposed to be like that.
Yeah, because it's a fermented product, right?
Fermented, yeah. So this you can add to your roster of fermented foods. In our culture, we don't eat nearly as much fermented foods as we should. So I'm going to show, while you're getting any more questions, some of these other things that I've discovered. If you don't like some of the other, this is, okay. This is a big thing now, the Beyond Beef. And I tell you, I'm almost surprised that I can use this. It really looks like meat. And the reason that I became a vegetarian back in the 70s, I didn't have any big philosophies or knowledge. I simply didn't like meat. So I told my mom I'm not going to eat it anymore. So in the package, this looks frighteningly like ground beef. But once you cook it, I don't know. I don't know that I remember what meat tastes like that much anymore. But the texture is meaty.
Well,
yeah, the texture is pretty meaty of this. And this is what really took the world by storm. And the burgers that are made of this, for people who really like, they say, I got to have my burger once in a while. Have this. You will not be disappointed. That being said, if somebody doesn't really like something that meaty, I discovered that things like Dr. Prager or Amy's burgers, if you just mush it up and also use it as ground, it's also really good.
Yeah, Hillary's also.
Okay, Hillary's. I've seen that at the natural food store. What we get into a little bit in this book, Plant Power Protein, of the plant-based seafoods. And I've never been one, I'm not a big, the only thing that I really liked was tuna. So here are two brands of plant-based tuna. This is made mainly of pea protein. And I'm not sure what this is made of because I'm not wearing my glasses. But again, if I'm going to make something like a tuna style salad, I'm going to use baked tofu. I just really love it. I feel like that's the recipe I probably make most often. It's just you take baked tofu, you mush it up, you put vegan mayonnaise, celery, and I put a little nutritional yeast, and that's my tofuna. But, it's good that these exist and gives us all options for things to use. We even have a recipe in here using, or maybe two recipes using plant-based shrimp, which I never thought I'd see the day. But it's, it just gives people options for people who say, I really would miss my shrimp and grits. Well, guess what? You can still have it.
Oh, no, still no more questions.
I still have.
What do you have next for us?
Okay, what I have next is vegan sausage. That you have that expression, you don't want to know how the sausage gets made. Well, this one is fine. It's really basically seitan and tofu and spices, so that you can now know how the sausage gets made and it won't upset you. And, so why not? It's, it's a really high protein food. It's really great for making things like a vegan jambalaya. I'm trying to think of what else I use vegan sausage and like vegan sausage and peppers. You can put on either pasta or polenta.
Field Roast makes a brand of Italian sausage and very low fat, and they've got the seasonings exactly right, I think.
Okay, well, growing up as I did, we never had sausage. I have nothing to compare it to, but Field Roast is also a great brand. So let's see, and then finally, Seitan, just plain Seitan strips. There's a lot of brands of Seitan. I make my own. I've just gotten used to it. Once you do it once or twice, it's not difficult. And it's really good. I make a big pot full, and then I freeze half of it. And I'm always really very glad to come across it after a while. Have you ever tried making seitan, Robbie?
Yes, I do. I make it a lot. And you can flavor it either beef-like or chicken-like.
Exactly.
And, most seitan recipes tell you to boil it or steam it. I have also made it where I knead it up, season it, and I just put it right in the oven and bake it.
Really? Wow. But just dry like it is, or in a liquid?
I'll put a little bit of liquid on it.
Oh, okay, well, that's interesting. I have something similar here, which is like the chicken style seitan, which I do in the oven because it gets a different texture. So yeah, I can see that. You sort of steam it with maybe like in packets of foil, and it comes out. It's just so interesting what you can do with all these ingredients.
And let's see, we have one new question. Let me open it up. And this is question lucky 13. Scroll down to the bottom. Okay, what's the plant-based shrimp made from? And Helen wants to know this.
Oh, you know what? It's not a product I get that often, and so I don't remember. Sorry, Helen. No plants, but other than that, I don't remember what it's made of. It might be in my my appendix here, perhaps, and we can find out what it's made of. So another thing I did with this book is I did recipes by protein type. So let's say you want something made with meatballs. So you go to the meatball section and you can see what you can make from it, like Italian wedding soup, pasta puttanesca with meatballs. But let me see if I can find the shrimp and what it's made of.
All right. While you're looking, I will tell you another recipe in the book that really intrigued me, which is page 32, the Portobello Pot Roast. Because pot roast for a lot of people was a staple growing up. And okay, that's at page 32. And
this is really nice for like a holiday dinner. And I did something a little different with this than I think people do generally, which is they bake the vegetables along with the meat. And then I'm thinking, I tried that the first time and they got, even with this that doesn't take so long, the vegetables got really overcooked. And to me, the worst thing, there's nothing worse than overcooked Brussels sprouts. So what I did was I roasted this separately, and then I roasted the vegetables, and then just, organized them in a very pretty way.
Yes, it looks like it's ready to jump off the platter onto your plate.
Yeah, I was going to say that all of these recipes, here's one of my other favorite. I like the ones that are 2-page spreads. This is called baked spaghetti pie, and this is made with the either Beyond or your homemade ground. And it's a classic American recipe that probably was in cookbooks like, I don't know, the Betty Crocker cookbook, things like that. So these are just really super fun to veganize. So basically it's just spaghetti in the ground and, the things you put into spaghetti, some vegan cheese, and you put it into a round casserole dish or a springform pan. And it's just, and I wrote about this recipe. It's one of those recipes that sounds really silly on paper, but it really is silly. But then when you eat it, it's really good. Everybody just loves this. Okay, let's see if we could still,
Okay. And Kate wants to know
yes,
about a simple seitan recipe.
I don't know necessarily. I'm going to have to think of something that's in the book, or something that I just like to do with seitan is simply stir fry it with whatever you have in the vegetable crisper. The thing that I think goes very well with seitan is either peppers, so that you come up with something like a pepper steak, or broccoli. So it's seitan and broccoli, which maybe if you want to find an analog for it would be, beef with broccoli from the Chinese menu. But basically that with your favorite marinade, maybe throw in some baby corn, whatever else you have, serve it on rice with a simple salad. So that's a really very simple meal. I'm sure I have some seitan recipes in the 5-ingredient vegan that are super simple like that.
I think Kate was asking how you actually make seitan. I think she was.
How you make it? Okay, yeah. Different question. You start with, seitan is pure gluten. So anybody who is, gluten sensitive, you stay away from this. But on the other hand, the gluten, for people who do tolerate it, and most people do, is the pure protein part of the wheat. So you start with gluten flour. Back when we didn't have gluten flour, so I remember standing in my kitchen in our first house in New Paltz, and you just starting with regular flour and then rinsing out all the starch. And it took hours and hours. So now it's simpler. You just get gluten flour. And one of the brands is Bob's Red Mill. And you basically can combine it with
Vital wheat gluten.
Yes, I'm sorry, you're right. Vital wheat gluten. And so you basically combine it with liquid, which is either broth or water, a little soy sauce I put in, usually put in some ginger. And then you just knead it together and you feel it's very kind of stretchy and almost fibery. And you let it sit for a little bit, and then you cut it up and you boil it in broth I usually boil it for about 40, 45 minutes. That's it. It's really pretty simple. I do have a make your own seitan from scratch here.
And once you make it, you realize it's not difficult. It's a lot easier than making bread. It doesn't have to rise, and it goes quickly.
Right. I'm usually happier with my homemade version. I've had some pretty good store-bought seitan, but it's less expensive to make, and also I like the texture. It just comes out really tender. I've had seitan, I'm sorry to say, that was like sort of like shoe leather, and not as good.
Yeah, or it can be too mushy if there's too much liquid in it and it's not dense enough. Then it shouldn't taste bready. The idea is it should
Exactly.
taste. Yes.
Right. It shouldn't be like the texture of matzo balls. Not that there's anything wrong with matzo balls, but that's not how you want your seitan. It has to be just right. So I'm still trying to figure out the mystery of what the shrimp is made of here.
Oh, somebody answered. Ken said that shrimp is made from konjac root.
Oh.
Konjac root, pea starch, and then Helen Sanchez said it's from konjac root, pea starch, and fenugreek.
Okay. I know there's a couple of brands that do shrimp, and one of them that I use mostly, Sophie's. Here we go. I'm going to see if Sophie's use the konjac root, which I guess gives it that look almost gel kind of consistency. So,
Yeah, I can see it making scallops.
Oh, yeah, it says here it says protein sources vary and include brown rice flakes and pea protein. And I know the other main brand now does use konjac root.
That's so I think we have time for a few more questions. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Anyone? I think I'm going to pop back up on screen now.
All right. I'm looking. No new questions yet.
No, I don't think so. I think that's about it. If you somebody said every question is answered in Nava's book, and I'm sure that it is.
Okay. Can I get a pitch for Oblong and other independent bookstores? Do not order your books from you know who.
Thank you, Roberta. We appreciate that.
An independent bookstore can get you any book in print, and they'll mail it for you, or you can come in and pick it up and look at what else they have. And one thing I love about Oblong is the way the employees have little cards that they've written capsule reviews of some of the books, and they're just charming. So use your independent bookstore wherever it is.
And ask, are you letting people into the store these days?
We are. We have, in a limited way, we allow a minimum number of people in the store at any one time. Masks are required, obviously, and so we keep everybody very socially distanced. We've also instigated private shopping appointments that you can book online. They're for an hour, and they're sort of outside of our normal hours, and they've been very, helpful for people with elderly people or people who are just not comfortable coming into a store situation. And we have a minimum number of staff in the store, so it's very safe. We keep it as safe as possible and follow all the protocols, and we're happy to see you. If you're not comfortable coming into the store, you can call us, you can email us, you can order online. We do curbside pickup. We'll mail it, like Roberta said, anywhere in the country for you. We have signed copies of all of Nava's books in the store, and you can buy the book through the button at the bottom of your screen as well. And yeah, so we so appreciate the support that the whole community has given the bookstore, I have to say, over this whole year. It's been wonderful, and we greatly appreciate it. And we appreciate you being here this evening. I can't wait to get my copy. Mine's waiting, but it's sitting at Oblong. I haven't been down there yet, but it's sitting at the desk waiting for me. I have all of your other books, and I just can't wait to get them.
Thank you. I really appreciate you putting this together. I wanted to tell the people who are here, if they want to visit me, to go to theveganatlas.com. And also my other website with my other part of my brain, literaryladiesguide.com, which is also all about classic women authors. Because aside from loving to cook, I really love to read, and I just love the classics.
Yeah. If you go, remember those website addresses, if you go to the event page on Oblong's website for this event, there are links to both those websites and also to Hudson Valley Vegans, hvvegans.org.
Thank you. Yes.
So you can always reach it from there. So if there are no more questions, we will bid you good night. Thank you, Nava, for doing this. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Robbie, also.
Yes, it's been an absolute
fun to do this, and I wonder how many people noticed that even without calling each other, we chose blue and gray to appear on the screen.
Oh, that's right. We're coordinated.
Do you always do that? Is that a thing?
Of course.
It just happened.
Oh, there is one more question. Is there any time? Okay.
Yes, absolutely there is.
Okay, let me scroll down to the end here. Okay. Will the books we order be autographed by Nava?
They will. Absolutely, they will. Yes. We have. Did you sign book plates, Nava, or did you actually sign the books? Yeah. We have book plates that are slipped into the books that are signed by Nava. So yes, the answer is yes. And if we run out of those, we can always ask Nava to sign some more. So that answers that one. So without further ado, I hope you all have a wonderful evening. We're all starving now and have to go off and cook something wonderful, I think.
Well, I was going to say, everybody stay safe, stay well. You know, hopefully hope is around the corner.
Yes.
Better times ahead.
Yes, let's hope so. Let's hope there's some peace and civility and some light at the end of this awful tunnel that we've all found ourselves in. So be well, stay safe, take good care of all of each other and yourself.
I want to say what I hear on MSNBC all the time. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Good night, everybody. It's been lovely.
Good night.